figuring out your unique abilities, but make sure you don't give up those things, right? So the point is, and this is the Viktor Frankl level of point, is that you have to have something to look forward to, and you get to choose that, right? That's the beautiful thing about human beings, and they don't realize that this is true, but it's abundantly true. And if you're miserable, especially entrepreneurs, I see a lot of entrepreneurs that are spun up and miserable. It's like, it's your business. What are you doing? You know, why are you doing this to yourself? It's your business. You get to decide.
Welcome to the Break Free Podcast. I am your host, David Mancilla. Today we have with us one of the best entrepreneurs that I know, a person that lives his life in flow, Mike. Brother, welcome to the show.
David, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Can you tell me your full name? Where do you live? And what do you do for a living?
Yeah, it's Mike Wandler. I live in Gillette, Wyoming in the summer, and I live in Phoenix, Arizona in the winter. I've got a big manufacturing company. They used to call them engineering companies. So we work on the biggest machines on earth. We manufacture parts for them, mostly the steel parts, and re-engineer. I've got about 100 million a year in sales. We do half of that is exports. So in the last 20 years, we've become an exporting company. The company started in 1964 by my dad, Leon Wandler, and I bought it from him in the late 90s. So I've been the president of the company since 2000, and it's a family. So we're on the third generation of the family now. I'm the end of the second generation, but it's still very entrepreneurial. So yeah, we manufacture big parts, biggest parts on earth.
That's so impressive in so many ways, because when I go see these huge machines and I see this specific purpose machinery, I always think, how can you make money with that if you only need one of them? How can somebody have a business supplying that if you may need one every 5 years or more, maybe one every 20 years? So tell me about that.
I'd love to. That's why people don't do it anymore, right? It's because you have to have a lot of skills, and your people have to have a lot of skills to build things, to know, and rebuilding is even harder, right? So we still rebuild. Most people have stopped rebuilding big parts like this because it's full of problems, right? It's much easier to make brand new. So rebuilding takes even a higher level of skill set, and we still do all of that. So how do you do it? You have all of the equipment, which we've been gathering up for 60 years, and you have these big shops with 200-ton cranes, all these CNC lathes. Used to be manual lathes until the 90s, and we started buying CNCs, all of these welders, some of them robotic, and mechanic shops and field service technicians and trucks. And then you have metallurgists, you have engineers, welding engineers. We have a tribe of 250 people in the United States and another 250 in this hemisphere that they're gearheads is what I call it. So it's really all about the people. So we gather up these people, and they're the ones that grew up doing chores. They like working on their bicycles, their race cars. You know, they're just guys that like fixing and gals that like fixing and making things. So it's gathering up those people and then giving them the tools and continuing to educate them on the new technologies to build these things. So this is why most people don't do it. There's only a handful of us around the world like L&H Industrial that continue manufacturing big parts and to your point, short run custom parts. Very capital intensive, and it's a lifetime commitment for somebody to learn how to do it and do a good job of it. That also presents a big barrier to entry. So I'm not too worried about somebody coming in and trying to take over my business, right? Because I've got all of this stuff in place. The hardest thing to replace would be my people and the tribe of like-minded people that I've gathered up that love getting up every day and building things and repairing things and figuring out how to make these big old machines even better, or how to keep them running.
Incredible. So it's got to be so hard managing your cash flow, because you mentioned 250 people in the US plus 250 around the globe. That's 500 people.
Yes.
And so I guess you are project-based, isn't it? Like you get commission a machine and then you work on it and then you deliver. Is that the case?
Yeah. So what happens is a lot of these machines were built a long time ago by companies that are no longer around, because all these big companies, Marion was bought by Bucyrus. Bucyrus was bought by Caterpillar. And then Joy Global was another big one. They'd bought a bunch of other companies before them, and they got absorbed into Komatsu. So these companies always gather each other up. So they leave, as that happens, the new company, they want to sell new machines, because that's what somebody like Caterpillar or Komatsu is set up to do, sell new machines, and then they'll support those machines for 20, 30, 40 years, and then they want you to throw them away and buy new ones. Well, these are, 10 million to $10 billion machines. It's not like you throw them away and buy another one. It's really complicated. So if you're a customer with one of these big machines in a mine, or even NASA with their collar transporter, you look around for an engineering company like mine to take it over. You become the original equipment manufacturer of that machine. And what that means is you go in there, you completely reverse engineer it, you focus on what their problem is. With the NASA crawler transporter, it was they needed to upgrade the carrying capacity to handle the new SLS rocket. And, we work with them, we completely redesign it, we manufacture all the new parts, send people down to tear the old stuff off, remachine it, put everything new on, rebuild it, and it's ready for another life. And then we are the manufacturer for that machine going forward. And with that style now, it'll be 60 years before NASA needs another shaft for that. So you have to make money on that one. So it's not, the parts aren't cheap, because you're not selling, hundreds of them or thousands of them. But that's the position we've taken, and it's an important position.
For sure.
Once in a while, the big guys, the Cats and Komatsus, they want to come in and try to compete with you when they're not selling product. But if you look at the business model and you're talking to entrepreneurs, pick your business model, right? I would not pick one to try to compete with those guys. They have a completely different business model than I do. The fact that they come in and try to compete with me once in a while when they think they need the work, that's okay. I'm better at it. That's what I do for a living. So I'm very good at it.
And I bet they tend to fail because it's not their business model, right? They are diverting, right?
They're diverting. They're trying to do something to keep the lights on while they're slow. And whereas I've got that as my main book of business. So you can imagine the amount of equipment that's out there, like the NASA crawler transporter or an old mill, an old gear. I mean, there's a lot of big, heavy old equipment, drag lines, shovels, a lot of big stuff. And then once you get the reputation of that, then people call you. I get calls from all over the world to build parts and to take over maintaining and upgrading machines.
So really, you don't need marketing at all, right?
You do need marketing. You could do word of mouth for sure. You could just say, no, don't do any marketing, but I do 100 million in sales. I spend about $1 million a year on marketing. And then I have about 26 salesmen that just go out and sell,
Beautiful.
So you still need sales and marketing to grow, right? If I just wanted to make a lot of money for a while, I could stop that. But then you would flatline and then probably start shrinking. People would forget about you. So it's better to add the marketing. I ran the numbers on the marketing, the value of the marketing and sales, and they're a no-brainer. You'll be much more profitable and grow with marketing and sales.
It's beautiful. Now tell me, after so many years of success, what motivates you to keep going?
Oh yeah, so this is my favorite subject, and I credit some of this to Dan Sullivan and the Unique Ability, but I've never really felt like I had a retirement date. I wasn't working for retirement. I get up and do this because I love doing it, right? It's fun. I have the freedom to run my own shop and have my own teams of customers and employees and vendors that I really love working with, because I'm gathering up like-minded people. So if that's all true, if you have all of these freedoms and you have the financial freedom, and I get to work with who I want, when I want, on what I want, I mean, I can do that every day for the rest of my life. So I don't have a retirement date. Now, I don't want to stand in the way of anybody else. So I tend to move myself off and let my next generation and other people lead things and go. And that actually works better too. But yeah, I'm working my best life. I live my best life. I'm also taking more time off. So I'm going down to I'm 4 days a week now is what I try to work, and I'll keep pushing that down until I'm working a couple of days a week on average. But I'll never stop doing this, and it's not because I need more. And it's not because of greed. It's because I love fixing things and making things, and then growing that tribe of like-minded people that is just fun to be around, right? Fun to talk to. Yeah.
You touched, my God, you solved one of the biggest problems that I see with entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs. They forget why they started.
Yes.
And they just get in the inertia of producing and building, and then their next goal is the other $10 million or the other $20 million. And then they get there, they get happy for 2 weeks, and they're okay. They're like, okay, let's go back working 18 hours a day again to make my next goal, because their life became about their next goal. And they realize, without realizing, that they have no life left, right? I heard about this billionaire. He's a real estate tycoon, 70 years old, working 16 hours a day still at 70.
Yeah.
16 hours a day, 5 days a week. He never went to his cottage last year.
I'm a recovered workaholic just over the past 5 or 10 years. So I get being a workaholic. I mean, I started working when I was 14, and I was probably working full time by the time I was 16, and double time all the way through my 20s, because I was just brought up that that's what you did. You went in every day and you worked, and if somebody needed something, you'd go do it. And I stopped doing that as I started getting better training, and it works way better if you can get that balance where you take that time off, have your free time, have your buffer days, and only do your work on a few days a week, right? You're so much more productive. But what I realized was, when I step back and I say, hey, I'm just going to turn all this over to this other person, they appreciate that. They don't want me in there messing with their stuff, doing it a little bit, right? If I just turn it over to them and I go do my job, which is vision and strategy and leadership, and I do a really good job of that, and leave everybody else to do everything else, you can scale it that way. And I'm much happier. Everybody around me is much happier. But I was one of them. I was one of them that was working way too much and trying to take on way too much for most of my career.
Me too, right? Like for me, I started the business myself in 2005, and with this huge scarcity mentality, because I came from a corporate office with beautiful corner office overlooking the city, and I was on top of the corporate world, making this huge salary with all these benefits, working 16 hours a day, right, as a corporate employee. And then I came into my business thinking I need to do this and more. And of course, at the beginning, you need to, right? You need to sacrifice to build a certain base.
You have to be willing to. I agree.
But once I reached my first $1 million, I still was confused. And I thought, okay, I got $1 million now. This I remember back in 2009, 2010. And I thought, now I need to work double to get to the next level, which was $5 million. And on my way to $5 million, I had a heart attack, because I was completely mistaken. Like, I was a workaholic. I almost lost my family. I lost my friends. I was a horrible boss. I realized that I was the one making all my problems. So I got myself into personal development. That's why I'm, I went all the way up to Dan Sullivan, right? And that's how I met you. And funny part is that I took the other way. Like, once I had a heart attack and I fixed myself after, the beginning of 2014, I said, I'm going to do the minimum to enjoy my life, to travel the world with my kids and my wife, and to keep the business growing only 4 or 5% a year, because I knew that if I wasn't growing, I was dying. So I stopped sales, I stopped marketing, and I did have a beautiful time until I got really bored. So what's the balance, right? I got really, really bored. So, and I love what I do. Like you said, like, why would you retire if you love what you do? Like, are you going to watch Netflix all day long, or go sip margaritas in front of the ocean all day long? That's going to get bored in 2 weeks. Boring in 2 weeks. You're going to get super bored, right?
I agree. So you don't want to delegate, give up the things that you like doing, right? Your unique ability. So Julia Waller with Dan Sullivan will help people get their unique ability, and she's got a great book out on it. But figuring out your unique abilities. But make sure you don't give up those things, right? So the point is, and this is the Viktor Frankl level of point, is that you have to have something to look forward to, and you get to choose that, right? That's the beautiful thing about human beings, and they don't realize that this is true, but it's abundantly true that you have to, and you get to choose what you do. And if you're miserable, especially entrepreneurs, I see a lot of entrepreneurs that are spun up and miserable. It's like, it's your business. What are you doing? Why are you doing this to yourself? It's your business. You get to decide. But I would go a little bit further and say, isn't that true for every human being? What are they mentally doing to themselves that they're not getting up and creating their life to be beautiful?
We get confused thinking that we came to this world to suffer, and it's not true. We came to this world to learn how to be happy and how to stay in abundance and how to change the world for a better place. Right? Like when you wake up in the morning and you love what you do, you're not working. That's why I keep saying my life is a vacation. It's not that I don't do anything. It's just that I love so much what I do, and I do it with so much balance. That is like, why not? I get like Monday now is like, fuck, I get to go back to the office and see all these beautiful people and help them fix problems if they arrive. Imagine if you had no problems in your life. You will be so bored.
The problems are the spice. The problems are the spice. I run into problems now and I'm like, ooh, this is fun. Let me fix this. Let me work on that, right? That's the spice, and they're rare. And the better you get your mindset and the more you focus on the positive, you enjoy those problems. They're not a big deal. They're an opportunity to have something new to do, something to fix.
Again, another beautiful, thank you so much for this interview, by the way. Like, another beautiful point is your mindset. Is whatever you produce with your mind.
Absolutely. Isn't it? Absolutely. The clearer I get on my mindset, the clearer my life is, right? It's all working on your mindset and what you think about and what you spend your time thinking about and working on. As soon as you get clear what you want, be careful, because when you get very clear at what you want, it will happen. And it's another way of saying that is goals, but it's really setting your mind on what you want to do. And the clearer you get, you will make it happen. You'll make 10-year goals happen in 1 or 2 years. And that is true. And I've always kind of known intuitively that was true, but now that I'm good at it, it's very, very powerful, and I can do it on demand. I can really focus on what I want and create that for myself, and for other people actually too. But I want everybody to do that for themselves, right? So I have a lot of people that delegate that to me, and I have no problem with that. I love it. I love my tribe and all of that. But I hope that they're happy. I hope they're as happy as they can be, and they're making their own choices too, right?
Yeah, so important. It's funny that I remember buying this booklet called The Biggest Secret, and I think it was written like 1910 or 1918. It's very old, very old. And it's just a booklet with a few pages, and it says, so the biggest secret is that you are and you become what you constantly think about.
Absolutely.
And then it's so funny because, my wife gave me this book called The Battlefield of the Mind, and they made a reference to the Bible. And in the Bible, it says, you are what you think about. So they got it from there.
A lot of the timeless truths they're biblical. They really are.
Is it crazy?
It is crazy. I see it all the time. All the simple truths are biblical, and people have grabbed them and applied them. And yeah, absolutely. They're all there.
But the problem is I heard this because I read this in 2011 when I was still really messed up, but I heard it with this year and it came out the other year. I never processed it. It's so simple.
Yeah.
You are what you think about, that you become what you constantly think about. It's so simple, but it's so profound. Your whole life depends on it.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And not to get the viewers to mistake that with obsession, because literally if I sit and I'll obsess about this particular thing that I'm deciding that I want to be or do for a week or two, right? And I'll do spreadsheets and I'll do things and I'll talk to people and I'll get it all worked out. And then I forget about it. I literally, put it away. And if I go look for it again, I probably can't even find it. So it's not like I'm obsessing about it. I've just made it clear on my mind that I'm going to do it and then put it away. And then I look back a year later and I've accomplished it. I'm like, wow, how did, but it's exactly what you're saying. I planted it firmly in my mind and I decided that I wanted that. And I maybe even formulated a few strategies to head me that direction. And it got me there. The analogy I like that was used was a ship with a rudder versus a ship without a rudder, right? If you've got your own rudder and you're pointing at a port, you're going to get there. There's going to be storms along the way, but you're going to get there. If you take off in a ship without a rudder, who knows where you're going to end up? It's probably going to be on the rocks. It's probably not going to be in a port. And if it is in a port, it's probably not going to be the nice one you wanted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you get to drive, right? You get to set the steer, like you get to steer your life around.
Yeah. And that's always true. So even somebody that says, dang it, I feel bad, I haven't done that yet. That's all right. Start now. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what age you are. You can always start.
Beautiful. And also another thing that I noticed is that if you're not getting the results you want because you make the wrong decision, you get to decide again, isn't it?
Yes.
You don't have to be stuck. Like if what you're doing doesn't work, do something else.
all great people, though, Lincoln's the one that people really cite. Look at all the mistakes and the stuff that guy had a problem with. And I have a list of those too. If I wanted to ponder on that, I could make a big list of the stuff that I failed at that I wish I would have done different. So you can either let that stuff keep you from doing anything in the future, or you can forgive yourself for it, love yourself, and move forward. I really, this other biblical term, love thyself, you see that show up. It's a very psychological thing. And one thing I think is until you love yourself and you forgive yourself, you can't move on. You can't love and forgive other people. You can't love your life if you don't love yourself. So I think that's another biblical tidbit that people should really ponder.
We were talking about this today, right? Like it's like what they say on the airplane when you're about to take off. Put the oxygen mask first yourself and then put it on somebody else. But you cannot love somebody else if you don't love yourself first.
Yes.
You have to be fulfilled first, and then the fulfillment grows, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's loving yourself and giving yourself a break and making sure you're financially set before you worry about making other people financially set. Yep. Take care of yourself first, and then you're better equipped to take care of other people, right?
It's beautiful.
Like you said, if you take care of other people first and you never get to where you're set, then you're just going to resent taking care of other people.
Yeah. And by the way, by setting yourself financially, it's just by adding value. It's a people's business. So you're still adding value, and that's the amount of value you get back, right?
I think that's exactly right. I think it's the easiest way to be financially healthy is by serving other people. And the more you can serve other people in whatever way you serve them, the better off you'll be and the happier you'll be. So not only the happiness also is in alignment with the wealth. So you've got to figure out how to serve other people and love doing that.
And the impact is important, like for me, and you get to decide whatever you do, right? So what I'm saying is works for me, doesn't work for somebody else. But I run a very successful outsourced software development company. So we make platforms to grow our clients' profits. I started in the corporate world because that's where I came from. So with the big multinationals, like billion-dollar corporations, and that's how I started, and I was growing really fast. But then I came to realize that doesn't matter what I did, it didn't make a big impact in the business positively or negatively. Like if they gave me $10 million project and it will fail or succeed, it really wasn't even measuring in their thermometer, right? So I'm like, it doesn't matter because even if I become rich, I'm not adding the impact that I want to add. So now I work with mid-sized businesses, right? I'm working with businesses where when I finish the project, I know I'm going to grow exponentially their profits. I know I'm going to make a better culture in their business, or something better is going to happen because of what we did. And the fulfillment,
yes,
it's just beautiful because it's not about the money anymore. It's like, how are you making the world a better place?
Yeah, right? You're helping fellow human beings in some meaningful way. And it's not a trick. It's you're truly helping them. And I agree. That's the only way to do it. And you got to be careful who you're hanging out with, right? So who are you trying to serve? Who do you have on your team? On your family, on your tribes? That's
values, right? Like I have 3 values now, thanks to EOS. I implemented EOS 2 years ago. And I used to have 12 values and nobody remembered them. Now I have 3 values. Everybody remembers them, and we filter people in with those 3 values. Not only my employees, but also my clients. If they don't share this general concept of how life should be, I don't work with them, because I get to decide now, right? Because I want to have my life as a vacation.
that's so powerful. And I've just recently, I mean, we've had our values for 25 years. And I just recently, I was in a workshop with Dan, and it hit me that on the values, we were letting ourselves off the hook once in a while with customers, where it was like, well, they're a big customer, so even though they're not going to behave and not going to do the right thing, we're still going to keep them. And I decided, no, we're not going to keep them. Now, if one of my people really wants to work with them, okay, but if you don't trust them and they don't share our values, it's not going to be a good fit. So we shouldn't even bother, right? And make sure whatever you do. So the other thing that I realized was we were giving these hard to work with customers that didn't match our values our best deal and our biggest effort. It kind of like the mean girl, the guys chase the mean girl, right? Because she's the mean girl. We were doing the same thing with customers. And so I'm going to make sure that our good customers that are a good match to our culture and do the right thing, they get our best deal, and they get our best people and our best effort. And we're going to make sure we flip that around and make it the right way. So
right. And then that's the perfect, so if you break that rule, it's the perfect way to have a horrible life, not only for you, but for your people too, right? Yes.
Yeah, go chase the customer that doesn't match your core values and see how hard of a life that's going to be for both of you, right? And the other clear thing to know is I'm not saying they're bad or they're just not a match to their core values. That's okay. It takes all kinds in the world, and they will get along fine with their core values, and we'll get along fine with ours. Let's just gather up our tribes, customers, vendors, employees that match our core values, and then it's a beautiful life. And who cares, if you think you might be able to grow a little bit faster by not doing that, you can't, and you won't. You'll
eventually fail. Or even if you get the money, what do you want the money for if you're miserable?
Yes.
Like you said, right? Money is just a tool. It's just a tool, right? It's about fulfillment and how happy you live every single day of your life. It's not necessarily.
I think the relationship with money and my dad taught me that it's a tool in the toolbox, and that was a very valuable lesson, right? And it's a really cruel master. So you don't want it to be your master. You don't want it to be that's what you're chasing. But it's an important tool in the toolbox too. So you don't want to, I'm going to be a nonprofit. No, okay, that I wouldn't do that, but whatever. But I think most entrepreneurs need to get a really good relationship with money, where it's a tool in the toolbox, and more is better, but it's not driving what you do or what you don't do. And to your point, people that are miserable and are working, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, it doesn't matter how much money they have, they'll still do that, and that will kill them, right? It'll at least make them super miserable, and everybody around them super miserable. So get that money part right, to where you don't, keep it in its place. It's a tool, and you need it, and it's handy, and it works a lot better than bartering, but you only need so much of it. And then more is just, when you have more, you should look at what more good can I do with this? How can I serve my customers, my vendors, my employees better with this extra? Because
or help change your community, or whatever cause you believe in an entrepreneurial way, though. Like, I don't really believe in non-for-profit charities anymore, because I see the waste. But I do believe in bringing people in, like supporting something that is going to grow by itself and funding that. That's beautiful, right?
The hand up, do the hand up, not the hand out.
Teach them how to fish. Don't give them the fish, and then they are independent. That's what you want, right?
Yes, that is what. That's what works. That actually helps people and keeps their pride, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Better, yeah.
Brother, I don't want to abuse your time. Thank you so much for being here. One last question before we finish this: if you had access to a billboard in the busiest highway on earth, what would you write in it?
Love.
Love.
We need more love. That's what it's all about in the end. Is, do you love your life? Do you love yourself? Do you love your people, your tribes? And that's the one thing that you should really make sure you're gathering up more of throughout your life.
That's beautiful. Mike, thank you so much, brother. Keep blessing the world. Keep having a vacation style life. And I'll see you on the next time.
David, appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
That's all for today's episode of the Break Free Podcast. Head on over to iTunes and subscribe to the show. Starting your own business can be tough, but it doesn't have to be. Visit davidmansilla.com to pick up a copy of the #1 international best-selling book, Breaking Out of Corporate Jail. Expand what you consider to be possible and reach your full potential. And join us on the next episode.